But in the meantime, if you want, I can maybe introduce myself for those of you who went with us last Tuesday. My name is Victoria, and I'm part of the assessment services team. I'm based in Madrid. And with me today, we've got David, Andrea, and Eva, who will be helping you in the chat box if you experience any technical difficulties, and also to answer your questions. So all the difficult questions, please, to them in the Q&A as well. Okay, we use the chat to share ideas, to share comments, but please ask your questions in the Q&A, so they can answer them, and I will also answer your questions when in the Q&A at the end of the session. Okay, so I think we can start. We're going to start with a bit of housekeeping. I think I've already talked you through most of it, but just a reminder, your microphone and camera are turned off automatically. We've got the chat box function available. So when you have a comment, I will also ask you some questions. So if you can interact with me in the chat box, it will be much better for me, of course, to know that I'm not on my own, and also because I love hearing your thoughts, and I think everyone can benefit from each other's ideas. We are coming from many different places, which is great. And the thing that we've got in common is that we all speak English. So please use English in the chat box. And of course, we are in a teaching and learning situation, so no worries about making mistakes. The important thing is that we are communicating. As I said, use the Q&A for your questions. I will get to them at the end of the session, and also my colleagues will be answering them throughout the webinar. The session will be recorded, and the link will be shared with you in the follow-up email that we will send at the end of March. Okay, so you know that next week we've got another session, this one for C2 proficiency, which David will be delivering. And after that session, we will send the follow-up email with the recording, with the link to the recording. Throughout the session, I will also be giving you ideas about resources that I think might be useful. And there will be plenty of QR codes on the slides for you to capture, but for any reason you don't have them all, don't worry, because at the end of the session there will be a handout with useful links. If you were with us on Tuesday, it's the same handout. And also, because as I said, we are in a teaching learning situation, we would love to continue learning from you, and that's why we want to hear your thoughts about the session today. So please take a few minutes to give us your feedback so we can continue improving, and hopefully next year's sessions will be more useful. Right, so that's all in terms of housekeeping. Now let's look at the content. What are we going to look at today? We are going to start with a brief overview of the C1 Advanced. We will also answer some questions about recognition that you asked when you registered for the session. Thank you very much for submitting your questions. They are very useful because they help me put together the session. And then we will be talking about writing. We will be going through some of the tasks, and we will be sharing recommendations and also resources. And then we will move on to speaking, and we will do the same. We will go through the different parts and trying to give you advice, ideas for you to bear in mind. Throughout the session, we will be sharing resources, and we will finish with the Q&A, okay, about 10 minutes, 15 to 10 minutes to answer your questions. So very briefly, the C1 Advanced, 4 papers, reading and use of English, listening, writing, speaking, about 4 hours, okay, 3 hours, 55 minutes, more or less. And there are 2 formats. You can either take it on paper or you can take it on computer. The level of complexity, the level of difficulty is the same. We are talking about C1, the CFR, the Common European Framework of Reference. So really the format doesn't make any difference in terms of the difficulty, and it also has the same recognition, right? So just choose the format based on your personal preference, on what you are familiar with and what you feel most comfortable with. Okay, make sure you have practice so you can make a decision based on your experience, because I think that everyone will have their own preference. Some people will prefer to will go for the paper-based option, while others will prefer to do it on a computer. So really, it depends. And before we move on, I would like to ask you a question about you and your perceptions about the most challenging parts of the exam. So I asked you the same question last Tuesday, but because we may have new people, different people, I would like to ask it again. So if you can tell me your experience, what is the trickiest part for you? Okay, I see some answers also coming in the chat. Listening, writing, listening and reading. Listening part 4. Yes, that's a good one, right, Loli? Lots of things going on. The test and the tricks. Yes, okay, the process of taking the test, it's important to become familiar with the exam. I think definitely in order to pass the exam, you need to have the right level of ability, but I think we can all show our best ability if we know what to expect. So if we are familiar with the exam format, we know what to expect, then I think we can take advantage of that to show all the English that we know. Speaking, okay. Yes, it's difficult sometimes to find the opportunity to practice speaking. The open close. Yes, sometimes it depends on the day. Yes, true. Tips for word transformation, Yael. I hope you watched the webinar last Tuesday, because we went through reading and use of English there. If you want to know more about the keyword transformation, watch you may want to watch the B2 session because we also discussed that there, and really like the technique or the advice, if you want, is very similar. Okay, so I think I'm going to move on, okay, to the next slide. Thank you for your answers. And I'm going to go on and talk about recognition. Okay, we said that both formats of the exam have the same recognition, but there was a question coming when you registered, and this was about the recognition of the different certificates that you can get. So I've got here the QR code of our website, where you will find a lot of information in terms of results. But I will try to go through the different possibilities here. So the C1 Advanced has a target level, which is the C1 of the Common European Framework of Reference. So if you take the C1 Advanced exam and you get a score between 180 and 199, you will receive a C1 Advanced certificate, okay? Either a grade C or a grade B. Okay, so this is the option that we've got here. Another option is that you sit the C1 Advanced exam and you do very well, and you achieve a score of 200 or above. In that case, you're going to receive a C1 Advanced certificate with a grade A, which actually shows that your level of ability is C2. Then the third option is that for whatever reason you didn't reach the 180 pass mark, and then you remained at the level below, which is B2, which is the option that we've got here. In that case, we are also going to give you a certificate that will be a certificate showing that you demonstrated ability at B2. Right, so in these three situations, in these three scenarios, we are going to provide you with a certificate because we are confident that you have demonstrated this level of ability, either C2 or C1 or B2. However, some institutions will only accept a C2 proficiency certificate as evidence of having a C2 level of English, or a B2 first certificate as evidence of having a B2 level. Then what is my recommendation? First of all, that you sit the exam you feel most comfortable with. Okay, so go to our website, do the mock tests and decide, okay, I feel more comfortable with a B2 exam or with a C1 Advanced exam or C2 proficiency. And then my second recommendation would be to check with the university, school, company that will accept your certificate, what the requirements are, because requirements can change from one institution to another. And it may depend whether you are going to enroll for a master's or you are finishing your degree, okay? So there are many different factors that you need to take into account. And recognizing organizations are independent to establish their own criteria and requirements. So it's important that you know them beforehand so you can make the right decision when you are registering for our exams. Having said that, Our exams, our Cambridge English qualifications, enjoy a lot, very wide recognition. Okay, more than 25,000 recognizing organizations worldwide accept our certificates. They include higher education institutions, companies, governments, ministries. So really, they trust our experience, they trust the research we carry out to produce exams which are valid, which are reliable, and which are top quality, and that's why they accept them. Okay, so this is something that you can also check on our website to get an idea of the recognition of the exam that you're going to sit. Right, so now we're going to start going into the exam itself, and we are going to focus on the writing paper, and there is a poll that we've got for you. I think it's a commonly asked question, frequently asked question, and it's, should I complete the writing paper in pencil? And I would like to hear your thoughts. Do you think it's yes, you should complete it in pencil, or is it no? Okay, Viola says no. The question is, should I complete the writing paper in pencil? Yes or no? Julio, hopefully you can see the poll popping up on your screen. Okay, Julio says with pen. Lilia says yes, yes, pencil. Maria says yes. Liz, yes. Mijale, sorry, apologies for my pronunciation. No. Okay. Well, I don't know. I cannot see the answers of the poll, but I think there is a majority of pencils. Maybe, I don't know. Well, in this case, the answer is pen. Okay. You need to write, complete the writing paper in pen. Okay, well, sorry. Now I can see the results of the polls. Thank you so much. And the majority was no. So it was only in the chat maybe where I saw a majority of yes. Right, fantastic. So you know, it was a tricky question. Apologies, yes. So you need to write in pen, and you have 1 hour and 30 minutes to complete this writing paper. There is a compulsory task, okay, which is the essay, and there is in part 2 you can choose one task from a choice of 3. And the recommendation, the guidelines is that you write between 220 and 260 words, but please don't waste your time counting the words. We are going to correct everything, okay? It's just for your guidance, really, that we are including that reference there to the word count, but we are going to correct everything. We are going to mark everything. However, if you write fewer words, maybe you don't develop the ideas as you should. And if you go beyond 260, then maybe you start repeating words, adding irrelevant information, and then that may have both things, like not developing your ideas enough, or including irrelevant information, repeating information you have already mentioned, will have an effect on certain criteria of the assessment criteria. Then there was also a question about literary works. So books, I assume that you have to read for the exams. And there is no set text for C1 Advanced, right? So you don't need to read any specific books. And the option to write about the set text has been removed from B2 First for Schools and C2 Proficiency, right? So really, there's no specific book that needs to be read for our exams anymore. And if you want to have more information, please again scan the QR codes. Right. Another of the questions we got was about the different writing options and the advantages and disadvantages of choosing each of them. So I'm going to give you a couple of, maybe a minute or so, to read the key information about the different task types, and then we will discuss them. Okay, hopefully you've had enough time to go through the key information about the different text types. Well, and which one to choose, I think it's something very personal. It depends on your preference. It also depends maybe on your interests. So my recommendation would be that you have enough practice in all of them, and that you take on board your teacher's feedback, your classmates' feedback if you engage in peer assessment, and also your feelings, right? When you have when you're producing a letter or a review or a report or a proposal, and you take all that on board before making the decision. Also, what I would strongly recommend is that you are familiar and comfortable with more than one text type, because I think on the one hand, you need to think about the text type requirements and conventions and structure, and then on the other hand, you need to think about the topic being discussed. So if you are familiar and comfortable with the text type, but you are not familiar with the topic being discussed, then you maybe want to go for another option when you are comfortable with both. This is something that you need to decide and beforehand, okay, on the texts that you are better at, if you want. So you don't have to think that much in the day of the exam. So really, if you can keep like a portfolio, right, with the different text types that you have been writing maybe not even only in C1, when in your preparation for C1, but when you were preparing for other levels as well, because some of the text types are the same for B2. So make sure you feel comfortable with more than one text type, you know how to write it, and then take that, bear that in mind when you are making the decision. Then let's continue with some more questions. You are clearly worried or interested about how to come up with ideas. Also, you're concerned with time, mistakes, and then vocabulary, okay, based on the questions that we got. And well, here for the B2 first session, I shared some statistics, or well, some information based on what we find when we correct, when we mark exams, and it's that candidates tend to do well in content, despite what you feel. And I think that I agree with Donatella. Brainstorming is crucial, planning is crucial, and it's not time that is wasted at all. It is probably a way to save time later when you are in the writing process itself. So taking some minutes to plan, to think about the target reader, the purpose for writing, the different content points that you need to take into account, that you need to include, that you need to develop, is going to help you a lot in the next two stages. And in terms of ideas, if you look, we are going to look at the tasks, and you will realize that there is a lot of input in the tasks. They are designed in a way, we are giving you a lot of information already, so you can write about the different topics. But then also remember that we are not testing you on your ideas. We are trying to give you a mark for the language, for how you express, for how you communicate your ideas, right? So bear that in mind as well. So this first stage of brainstorming, selecting ideas, and organizing your ideas is key to save time later on and to do better as well. Because then if you have a clear plan of what is going on, the actual writing process will be much better. You will be able to have a very clear idea of what they are main ideas, and then support or examples. You will be also able to develop your ideas better, and you can also decide whether they are straightforward or complex ideas. Ideally, we will have a combination of both. And you can also think about how you are connecting your ideas and if the text is coherent. And then once you have finished, it's time for the reviewing stage, where you can check whether you have repeated maybe some structures or some words. If you can try and have more synonyms, if you can try and express your ideas in a different way, if you have been able to include less common vocabulary, if you have included some complex grammar. It is also an opportunity to go back to the task and check whether you have included all the content points, and if there are any mistakes, any error slips that you can spot. I mean, it's something that we would do in normal life. I think we would never send an email to apply for a job without reading it at least 3 or 4 times, right? So I think it's something that it's good practice in general. So let's look at the different tasks. Here we've got the essay, and we're going to talk a bit more about planning. And in order to plan, it's important that you understand how much information, how much input we are giving you. So you can take all this information into account before starting to write. So in the, I've put it in different boxes here. Claudia says, go back maybe to, is it this slide? Claudia, is the same information. We just have the different colors. Okay, so in the pink box, what we have is just very basic information about the topic. Okay, so it's an initial rubric giving us information about the topic, where the information has come from, and provides context. Okay, then in the second box, the blue one, there are 3 elements from the discussion which are provided, and you only need to choose 2. Then in the purple box, in the number 3, we've got different opinions that were shared, and you have the choice of either including them or not including them, but hopefully they will give you some ideas. And then in the orange box, we've got the instructions for you. Okay, so discuss 2 of the areas, expressing your own opinions and giving reasons to support them. Okay, so these are the how the information in the input is organized. And as you can see, there is a lot of information to start thinking about the topic. Then when we are thinking about the text type, the essay, what aspects do we need to take into account? Well, it's vital that we understand the purpose, that we understand why we are reading, and this is to highlight relevant issues of a discussion, to support our argument. We can discuss both sides if we want to. We can go for one if we want to. Important that we always include 2 content points. We can refer to the opinions, but using our own words. Remember that in our exams, paraphrasing, demonstrating the ability of expressing ideas in a different way is crucial. So we don't want you to be lifting words from the task, really. We want to see that you've got the flexibility to express the same information in a different way. And then, as I said, remember that there are 2 items that need to be discussed, not all 3. And then in terms of the organization of the essay, it's very important that it is well organized, that there is an introduction. We will be talking about that later on, a clear development, conclusion, and then in terms of the language, that we are showing our ability to use a variety of lexis and grammar. Veronica, I'm not sure. I think I've included all the information in all the slides. I don't think I'm missing any of the paragraphs, but I will go back here. Anyway, this is in the handbook. Okay, if you want to to refer back to it. Right, and as I said, the introduction, having a good organization is very important, and usually the first and the last paragraphs are very important because they make the first impression, okay, and then they make the last impression, right? So they are very important paragraphs, and that's why I've selected an opening paragraph and a closing paragraph for you to have a look at and reflect. Okay, so if you can take a minute maybe to read the task and to read the first paragraph, then we will comment on it. Yes, Alejandro, I was on mute because I didn't want to bother you with any noises that I could make while I was drinking some water, and to give you some peace and quiet time for you to read the paragraph. Okay, so I would like you to think about this first paragraph in terms of the communication, okay, the communicative achievement. So, right, what do you think? Is this a good, maybe it's a good first paragraph for this essay in terms of the communication of ideas, bearing in mind that it's kind of an introduction for what is coming next? Of course, we are going to look at something positive and then some things that maybe we can improve. Okay, so here you can see that it is the positive aspects, the strong points are that, well, the main elements of the argument are mentioned, okay, so they are introduced, and then it is also hinting at the idea that, you know, it's a complex topic. It's not something very straightforward, very simple. It is already hinting at the idea of journalists also being subjective. Okay, so these are the strong points. The aspect that we could maybe improve is the use of you. We can go for more neutral styles, and maybe would be more suitable. Okay. This, if you want to here, you can scan the QR code to see the whole text and the mark it got for communicative achievement. It scored 3. Okay, so it's C1. And what the examiner comments say is that the conventions of the essay were used effectively to hold the reader's attention. I think we all feel we want to read more, that the writer has a clear stance on the topic, and that they understand that it's not a straightforward issue. Okay, so they are expressing complex ideas. So this is a good example of a C1 paragraph, okay? Bearing in mind that it's only a first paragraph. Then let's look at the final paragraph. Here, what we've got is a review, okay? It's not an essay. So again, I'm going to mute myself and I'm going to give you 1 minute to read the task and also the final paragraph. And again, thinking about the QR code there. Thinking about the communication. Please let me know what you think. Okay, if it's a good final paragraph for a review. Okay, thank you for your comments. Here, I want to remind you that we are thinking about the conventions of the task, okay, the way we communicate ideas, the ideas that we communicate, whether they are simple or complex. Well, here the feedback that we've got is that in terms of the conventions, the style is natural, it's confident, the writer is addressing the reader directly, okay? But if you want to turn away, right? So there we see how they are addressing the reader directly. There is also a clear summary of the recommendation. In terms of maybe the style, well, in conclusion, maybe a bit too formal for a review, would be more suitable for an essay. So maybe that's the only aspect that we could improve. In terms of the level, these scored 4 for communicative achievement. Again, if you want to refer to the full text, you can do it in the guide. But well, it is high C1, right? Of course, here we are looking at just one paragraph. We don't do that when we are marking the exams. We look at everything, but well, this is the feedback that you can take maybe on board and maybe thinking more about the good aspects that make it a strong text at C1. We're going to continue looking at communicative achievements and the communication of straightforward and complex ideas, because it's not an easy concept to explain. This is actually taken from the B2 guide for writing, but I have included it here because it's a band 5, so actually it is showing C1 level. And here you can see, and I like it because it shows a nice combination of straightforward and complex ideas, right? So I find it quite useful to explain complex ideas which are abstract. They also cover a wider subject of wider subject area. So it means that you need to use more linguistic resources if you want to express these ideas. And then I also wanted to talk about organization a bit. In this case, we are showing a report. And this is mainly to reflect about the transition between B2 and C1. Right here, we have a C1 task, which has some positive aspects, as you can see, good use of a variety of linking words, of cohesive devices, right? But it's not good enough. Okay, we need to do a bit more to reach the C1 level. Okay, so at C1 we are looking for a text that is well organized, coherent, using a variety of cohesive devices and organizational patterns to make or produce good effect. Okay, and here we see that there are some problems at times that is preventing us from having this good effect, and this is why it's not reaching the C1 level. So it's important that you understand. We are also going to talk about this in the speaking, this transition between C1, B2 and C1. Right, moving on with more questions coming from you about vocabulary and how to practice, where to practice vocab at high levels. We've got this resource, English Vocabulary in Use, where you can be sure that the level is at the vocabulary is at the right level. Okay, so you've got some theory, some practice, guided practice at the beginning, and then what I would say is just like try and use it when you are speaking and when you are writing. And I also wanted to say that the best way to practice vocabulary and to learn new vocabulary is by reading, okay, and reflecting on the different aspects that are included in knowing a word, right? So at these levels of ability, very high levels of ability, we're looking at a number of aspects when we say that we know what a word means and that we can use it. Okay, can we use it in the right context? Can we use its different forms? So please bear this in mind when you are reading and when you come across a word that you are not familiar with. And as I said, once you have had some maybe more guided practice, go on and use it, right? Try to rephrase, try to use synonyms, and don't be afraid of making mistakes. Try to be ambitious and aim high. And then there was a question also about what we are looking for in the writing, right? Our assessment criteria. And I think we have mentioned most of them: content, communicative achievement, organization, and language. These assessment criteria are designed for examiners. I think that at C1, also if you are a teacher, you will be fine to use them. But in some cases, you may want to understand exactly what we mean by specific terminology. We have developed, or we have created the success criteria, which is an adaptation of the assessment criteria, but for students. And also in the teaching guides, you have an explanation of the different terminology, right? So please check it out. It's very, very, very useful because it also explains the vocabulary or the terminology or what to expect at the different levels of ability. So what do we mean? What is complex at B2? What is complex at C1? Complex vocabulary, complex grammar, what does it mean? And then, of course, if you want some guidelines for reviewing your texts when you are preparing for the exam, check out this checklist as well with some very straightforward questions for you to answer and reflect. And I don't want to finish this section, this writing section, without mentioning Write and Improve. It's a free tool that you can use and get instant feedback. So if you haven't tried it, give it a try. If you have tried it, let us know what your thoughts are. Right, so speaking, and we're going to start with a poll for you. Jorge, Write and Improve is free. Most of it is free. There is a part of Write and Improve that is more for teachers, okay? If you want to use it as part of your classroom, which is as part of your lesson, sorry, which is paid for. But as a student, you can use it for free. Right, so I don't know if you can see the poll, but if not, no worries. Okay, here it is. In the speaking exam, my partner's performance will influence the mark I get. There are 2 examiners in the room, but only one of them will speak to me and manage the test. The more I speak, the better, even if I don't let my partner speak. So can you answer, please? Oh, that's great. Thank you for your feedback. Okay, I'm going to move on because I'm conscious of time. And we've got quite a lot to get through yet still, but I hope you saw the correct answer. Yes, and it was chosen by most of you, is that there are 2 examiners in the room. Okay, we will talk about having 2 your partner and the role they play, and also the issue of dominating the conversation. Okay, Brenda, thank you for joining us. Bye. This is a very quick summary, okay, overview of the speaking, 4 parts, different task types, interaction with the examiner, with the interlocutor, interaction with your partner. So there are different types of interaction going on, and also opportunities to speak on your own. For more information, please check the QR code. And what is the objective of the speaking exam? Well, to be able to show your ability to communicate effectively at C1. And what does this mean, right? Again, we're going to see this transition between Eva, it is the same QR code you've seen before to the handout, to the handbook for teachers, sorry. Thank you, David. So we're going to see the transition between a B2 and a C1. Right, so what is the difference between a B2, which is a band 1, and a C1, which is a band 3? Look at that. Here we are talking about range, variety of grammar, okay? Simple and some complex. Variety again of lexis, of vocabulary for familiar and unfamiliar topics. In terms of discourse management, how much we hesitate, there is always hesitation, how much Are your ideas organized clearly? Are you using cohesive devices and discourse markers? Discourse markers, like, you see, actually, basically, okay, things that keep you going and make your speech a bit more natural if you want. Pronunciation, here we are talking about intelligibility, right? So we're not talking about native accents. Interactive communication, how you link your initiate, respond, and link your ideas to your partner's ideas, and the support that you need. And then global achievement, which is an overall idea or a global vision of your performance. How should we approach speaking part 1? Be prepared, for sure. Be ready to answer questions about you, about your past experiences, about the future, but don't memorize them, okay? They will notice examiners are trained, they have a lot of experience, and they will realize when you are giving a memorized answer. So please don't do that. Give full answers, for sure, but remember that in this part, you're not expected to speak for too long. Respond promptly and naturally as well. And try to use a variety of tenses, structures, and vocabulary. And here you have an idea of the tenses that you may be expected to use, and some vocabulary. No surprises here. I think you are going to talk about yourself. Aspects to bear in mind in part 2. Here we are talking about part 2. There are 3 pictures, but you need to choose 2. You need to compare and contrast. So we are going beyond the description. You also need to answer 2 questions, and you need to be ready to speculate. And let's look at what the difference it makes to use modal verbs and some structures to express speculation, right? So look at this answer and look at this answer. Much more developed, much more sophisticated as well in terms of the use of modal verbs and other structures, right? So it really makes a difference. And this is what you should be aiming for in this part of the exam. Yes, Pablo, I thought that too, that it was quite a good way to see the difference, right, between what is a more basic answer and then a more advanced answer, if you want. How to approach part 2, recommendations. Choose the right pictures. What is right for you, the ones you can talk about, the ones you feel comfortable with. Refer to the questions on the paper and compare and contrast, bearing these questions in mind. Try to come up with 2 or 3 points maybe that you want to discuss. And if you're running out of ideas, relate the photos to your experience, connect the pictures, okay? So try to think about, connect it to what you know, and you have to speak for about a minute. There are no, I mean, as you see, there is no, I mean, there is no magic recipe or anything like that. Like, these are just things that you know, but I think it's good to have them as reminders of what needs doing. Like, there is nothing new that we are going to tell you, but it's good as a reminder, as a checklist. Useful language. Again, what we have already seen, cohesive devices to express consequence, to express contrast, adjectives to describe feelings, situations, activities, and then modal verbs as well to express speculation. Part 3. In part 3, I'm going to start with something that may be surprising because, right, active listening, but we are in a speaking exam. Yes, you need to listen carefully because you need to understand the instructions. Listen carefully to the examiner so you know what you have to do. Listen carefully to your partner so you can react. The part 2 slide, this one, Iman. So as I said, I'm going to continue talking about part 3. Listen carefully to the examiner, to your partner. So you can also connect your ideas to your partner's ideas if appropriate. You can react to what they are saying and you can show you are interested. Eye contact, body language. This is not going to be marked as such, but I think it creates a positive atmosphere. It shows the other person that you are interested, that you care for what they say, of what they say. So I think it's just good practice in general. In terms of how to approach part 3, eye contact, body language, we've already talked about. Respond to your partner before moving on. Okay, so if they have asked you a question, make sure you answer, and then you move on to the next point. Refer to what they said, as you said. That's a good sign. It means that you've been listening, and then you can develop this idea a bit further. Remember that the objective is that to see how you interact. So there is no point in just dominating the conversation. That's not what we want at this part of the exam, in this part of the exam. Remember to always finish prompting your partner to take over. Okay, so what do you think? What's your view? Do you agree? And remember that you need to discuss the ideas together. Okay, you are in this together. And then very briefly, some of the language that you need to use. Miriam, I think it's good to have a balance, to initiate and respond the conversation. It's good to keep the balance. Part 4. Part 4, it's an opportunity to discuss maybe broad topics, generation gap, social issues. These are just examples. Remember that as in the rest of the exam, there are no right or wrong answers. We are not testing you on your ideas. Remember to develop your ideas with the main idea, reason, example, and refer to your partner's ideas when suitable. Okay, so try to do that if it's appropriate. It's just another opportunity to continue developing what you have already mentioned. And then moving on to your questions quite quickly, so we have some time for the Q&A. What happens if you finish before the exam, before the minute or before the 2 minutes? Remember, it's positive marking, okay? So we don't penalize you for these kind of things. Of course, we want you to have to take all the time that you have to show what you know. So try to speak for as long as you can. But it's very important that you are showing variety, complexity, accuracy. So it's not the quantity, but the quality as well. And maybe it's good idea that you practice so you know how long 1 minute feels or 2 minutes feel, because it can feel very long sometimes. What happens with your partner, you know, if they are shy, if they dominate, well, our examiners are experienced, they are trained to try to give the candidates same opportunities to talk and show what they know. So please don't worry about that. Of course, remember that examiners can only assess what you show them in the exam. So even if you're shy, you know, we all understand you are in an exam situation, but you know, try to speak, because that's the only way we have to assess what you know. And then there were a lot of questions about confidence and you know, being shy and how to act, how to behave in a speaking exam when you are shy. And I think it comes to confidence and understanding that you are understanding the task and understanding the context. Make sure you know what you need to do in each part of the exam. Make sure you are familiar with the exam material. Think about the elements of the exam situation, the examiners, the fact that there are two candidates, the time for each part of the test. Try to become familiar with the exam format, watching the videos, making sure you practice and taking advantage of self-assessment and peer assessment. This video about the examiners talking about speaking tests is definitely my favorite. It's quite old now, I think, but it is always relevant. To practice, we've got the handbook with questions, so you can become familiar with them. There are also some more fun activities like word wall that you may want to try. Give it a try. For self-assessment, you may want to use the success criteria that I shared earlier on, and here you've got it here as well. For part 2, remember to practice using the mock exams, pictures that you see on the newspaper, magazines, record yourself, and then assess your performance. That's maybe the best way to understand, okay, hesitation, maybe the sounds that you said you were saying in the chat you make. So it's a good way to have a more accurate perception of your performance. You can also practice with online resources. This is for part 3. Okay, so trying to speculate about photographs or any other topic, and giving you the opportunity to practice how to express agreements, how to buy time, you know, like, that's a good question, that's a good one, let me think about it, something like that. Also, make sure you cover the options for the mind map, so you can increase your creativity, and you can give your opinion, and then ask your partner and your teacher for feedback when you are using the exam tasks. Think about the videos, right? And also check the examiner comments and take that as an opportunity to have guidance on how to improve the things that they are doing well, the things that they could have done better. And also become familiar with the context, and also be generous with yourself. I think it is a high-stakes situation. Everyone understands that you are nervous. You are familiar with the context, okay? Make sure you know the time of the exam, the venue, that there will be an usher who will be guiding you to the exam room, what happens in the exam room. And that, I think, will help you have control your feelings a bit more. if you want to find out more about the exam day, check out our information for candidates. This is the QR code here. For just for your peace of mind, I think, to know what to expect, because that way you will be able to control your feelings better. And find a routine, something that works for you. I remember that I used to read aloud texts before a speaking exam. So I got used to, articulating sounds in English. And that helped me, feel more prepared. I don't know, it was something silly, but I always did it and it worked out well, I think. And just remember that you are ready. Okay, that you have worked really hard, that you're familiar with the exam situation, you are ready. We're going to finish off with, yes, Micaela, I will go back in a minute, with the resources, okay? For you to scan them. The handout will also have them. Test and Train, our learning teaching platform for exam practice. The in-use products that I also mentioned in the session. If you have special requirements, please visit our website, check with your exam center, so we can find the best way to support you. I'm going to go through this very quickly. You asked me about how long you need to prepare for the exam. And here you can see that there is a range of time, really, and it depends on your situation, how long how long you have to prepare for the exam outside the course, if you are attending a course, if you are preparing on your own, if you live in the country, if you live in Spain or in Italy, or wherever you are in your home country. Questions about the exam day, pen, pencil, can I drink water? Again, this is the QR code to the information for candidates. Micaela, you can scan it here as well. Everything is in there. And also you can check with your exam center. There were also questions about mixing American, British English. You can use varieties of English, but be consistent, okay? Just don't mix them. Just like if you are going to use American English, stick with it. If you go for British English, stick with it. Try to rephrase. Don't use the exact words from the question paper. I told you that. Don't lift questions from the rubric. And don't prepare long answers in advance. Don't memorize answers. Just be natural. These are maybe common mistakes, right? The preparing ones and the lifting words. And that's it. It took a bit longer. Sorry, apologies for this, but I think David, Andrea, and Eva have done a great job answering all your questions. Thank you. Thank you so much. This is the QR code, and this is the satisfaction survey. Claudia, if you speak for longer, the examiner will stop you. Okay, they will say, okay, thank you. And that's perfectly fine. Okay, that's not a problem at all. I think that's what you should be waiting for, right? You should be speaking until the examiner says thank you. Instead of I think, to my mind, in my opinion, I believe, I reckon, I suppose it depends on the context as well. Okay, we are out of time. Thank you so much for joining us, for bearing with me, for for an hour and 15 minutes or 3 hours and 3 hours and almost. If you join me on Tuesday and join the sessions on Tuesday and Thursday, best of luck if you are going to sit the exam. And I hope the session was useful. Thank you so much for being so nice, interacting so much in the chat. Thank you for your questions as well. They were so useful. And I think that's it. Nuria, where can you get the webinar recording? We will send you a follow-up email at the end of next week, and you will receive the links there. Okay, you will receive the links to all the sessions. So even if you want to check something in the B2 session, you can also do it. Yes, Irene, it's the same handouts that I shared on Tuesday. I just made one handout for C1 and then one handout for B2. I just thought it would be easier. The drop the link to the C2 webinar. I don't know if you've done it, guys. I think I've got it here. Okay, great. Thank you so much. And I think that's all for today. As I said, good luck in your exam and thank you for joining me. Thank you. Bye.